people were actually paying attention to the title sequence. They were asking me questions about it. They liked the title sequence and they're happy to see something like this coming out of India.
Sacred Games is the one title sequence that everybody spoke about. Everybody be like, oh, you guys did that.
Sunny as a character who is so obsessed about making the super note. The patterns and the colors and the details of the notes look like, so getting the audience to enter into this world of notes.
लेकिन इसमें बहुत रिस्क है। रिस्क है तो इश्क है।
Jay giving me a history lesson about who Harshad Mehta is, because I obviously didn't know about him. There wasn't much of a brief for the title sequence per se. It was more about what the show is and who it's appealing to and what it's bringing to the table, and that was pretty much it. Like, it was very open-ended. Like, the initial idea was really to try to get that feeling that Harshad Mehta and what he meant to a whole generation of people. I kind of wanted to encapsulate that feeling and give it out in the title sequence. The whole pipeline was a little different because the kind of look I was trying to achieve was something I hadn't done before and also something I hadn't exactly seen before. The 3D renders, they were rendered out in passes. So different passes of the 3D renders would have different information. In the later stages of the compositing, what would happen is we would take out different passes of the renders and treat them differently to kind of get this layered look that is more reminiscent of a comic book illustration or a poster, a grunge poster or something. I wanted to blur the lines between 3D animation and 2D animation, kind of be in this middle ground. It was a really experimental process, but the kind of software we used was Cinema 4D. For the 3D animation, Octane for the rendering, and After Effects for the compositing. So we're trying to find some contextual justification to use a cooler color palette. And one of the things that popped out to me was the nature of Harshad Mehta's character. He's a risk taker, and to him, other people seem to be baffled by his ability to just take these massive risks, to make these massive gambles. And my interpretation is that he's definitely brave, but maybe another interpretation could be that he just couldn't see the potential losses. So to him, all he's seeing is the green. He's only seeing the profit he could make. So that's why every gamble seems like a good one to him. And it worked out pretty well until it didn't, So my idea was to just show the green profit margins that are just rising up and up, and he's just looking at that. So in his mind, his whole world is illuminated by this green. It's the allure of all the profits he could get. It's not like the green represents wealth, because it doesn't. He has enough wealth already. The green is just him winning. He got addicted. I feel like, at least that was my understanding from the show, but he got addicted to the idea of winning big. And that's what he wanted to do. He just wanted to, like a gambler does, right? So that's what influenced us to use the green profit margins. And in effect, we decided to kind of bathe the whole scene, like all of the compositions in this, like this very, very bright green, which is also like a bit of an ode to The Matrix, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think the first shot was meant to show that, where we've tried to keep the apparel also a little different, where he's not really blinged up in the first shot. He's just one of many. So it's also that the altitude is also meant to evoke that he's really elevated himself. Like he's climbed up the social ladder where he used to be like belong to the lower middle class, and now he's like at the very, very pinnacle of where society can take you. I guess VFX in a word for me would be dreaming. It's really more the process of realizing a dream, but it always begins with that, right? So I don't know, it's like whatever you can think of, you can make. If you can think of it. It just starts with a thought always.
In our first discussion with Raj and DK, this was the idea that we all agreed unanimously, and the first brief that Raj and DK had in their mind was like, let's include a chase sequence into the currency note, sort of like how the Bond sequence for forget the name of the movie. Casino Royale, yeah, Bond sequence. The opening sequence of Casino Royale was one of the initial brief. Then over time, when the music came in, and considering the timeline that we had and the amount of detail that was there in the notes and the artwork, the initial artwork that we had created, slowly we sort of like got rid of adding any human elements into it and just making it about the super note that was being created. Research for Farzi was basically finding notes in our wallets and taking like these like really 4K scans of the rupee notes. Go through the intricate patterns and designs and see what all we liked, what all is possible to recreate, because in an art piece that is so intricate and so complicated, to recreate that is going to be even more challenging, and we are aware of that as artists who worked in the industry. So one of the key things that stood out for us were the corner bits, because they were very much, that was one common element in all of the notes, be it 100, 20s or 50s or 2000s. The corner bits had this very like half, like not exactly a triangle, but sort of like a curved triangle, sort of an edge to it. And the detail there was, and the shape and the intricacy on those segments were very different for each of the notes. So they became like a very easily identifiable because of the colors and the patterns. We had restrictions not to be able to use Gandhiji or any RBI emblem, so we had to sort of then take a call on what do we do in the center. They are semicircle in the note, of course, but we took the creative liberty to make it like a full circular mandala and use that as a central motive, where the title of Farzi, the R in the middle, we even suggested changing the R to a rupee symbol, but of course I think Amazon was already like sold on the logo. So the R in the middle sort of is in the center of the mandala, if you see at the final super note that we have created for the sequence. So the colors for Farzi title sequence were pretty much dictated by all the currency colors that exist right now for Indian currency notes, because we felt, I personally really liked how Gen Z the color choices were, like especially the contrast difference in each of the colors of the notes were something that really appealed to me. When we zoomed in on the scans of these notes, we figured that within those patterns, if say for like the 200 rupee notes, the orange that was used within the patterns also had variation. So there was like a deeper orange, there was like one orange meets yellow blend color in between for the highlights, and there was like a mid-tone orange that was used. The color choices obviously came from the notes, but the idea to keep the sequence so colorful was something that was a part of the concept itself, because I felt like Sunny as a character who is so obsessed about making the super note would have probably been doing the exercise that we did as a team to just deep dive into how the patterns and the colors and the details of the notes look like. So the idea was to go into very zoomed in specific details of the notes and sort of keep tracking back, keep coming back, and use some sometime in the middle, go to the backside of the note and keep going through the locations like Rani Ki Vav and the Mangalyan satellite and all of that, go through them and then come back to the front of the note again and then see the super note that has been created. There were many different typefaces that were being used. And also different languages in one particular segment of the note where the number is written in multiple languages like Hindi, Malayalam, Tamil. In some notes and some segments of the note, you can see, if you really zoom into it like 400x, you can see a wiggle or like a slight corroded way of the way the ink has been printed on the paper, So all of these just sort of blew our minds because we were like, ek note banane mein, there's so much that is involved, So that was something that was very exciting and something that made me appreciate the designers who worked on the notes.
Sacred Games brief was really fun. Vikram was like, बहुत सही title sequence चाहिए, meeting over. I was like, wow, okay. Then he's like, no pressure, but it's Netflix India's first original, so we want it to be cool. And like, there's all these layers, there's so many things happening. So that's why it starts off really colorful. Various colors are used to represent people from different backgrounds living in harmony. And then as these flashes of incidents, which were like archival footage, kind of gets cut into the sequence, you start seeing how that damages his worldview, and slowly the colors bleed and they become black. That's kind of the concept that we came up with, and we told this to Vikram, and Vikram is famous for not ever saying like, yes, that's good, or like, it's approved. He goes like, works, and then we were like, okay, awesome, man, Vikram says works. So then we went about executing it that way. In the title sequence, there are various colors in the initial mandala, which we weren't really specifically trying to show various religions or anything, but we were just thinking of various people of various different backgrounds and sort of like living in harmony with each other. And because it was in the center, it had a golden mandala as the main color, and we wanted it to have like almost like a Arabian floral carpet kind of feel to it, resting behind this golden mandala shape. But what it does is, eventually, like in the beginning, if you look at it, the mandala becomes subdued, and all these colors give it like this tapestry that makes it look sort of like you don't really know what you're looking at, and then slowly when the colors bleed to black, you expose the golden that was there all along, and then it gives you the shape of the actual mandala. The stock footage that was used was mainly to establish the socio-political climate in not just Bombay but like all over India at that point of time. There were a lot of conflicts during that time. And that kind of shaped his identity. So it was very important to show how those intercut of those visuals were disturbing you. In the middle of calm music, calm visuals, there are these like flash cuts, where you see like dirty VHS kind of distortions and stuff like that to disturb you. It's meant to provoke something, and that's what it did to our character as well.
Sacred Games had S and G, and both the characters' names were Sartaj and Gaitonde. So having S and G together and having sort of like, because there are two protagonists in the show and their lives are sort of interwoven over time, this double infinity with the S and G was a motive that we were very fascinated with, and Ani was trying a couple of designs initially, and he arrived at something so quickly because I think it was just sort of meant to be. So he fit the G within the S and then fit the entire unit within the infinity. We just knew that we've arrived at something that's unique and that's going to stand out, and we showed it to Vikram and he loved it. And yeah, that was a fairly organic, quite quick process that we had for the logo.
Thank you for watching us on
India's VFX revolution.
Please do like, share and
Subscribe to IGN India.